Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be going over the differences between a chiropractic adjustment and a joint mobilization, both of which I utilize in my office depending on what we're working on or what's appropriate for the person. So when you have an injury, it's going to cause pain and inflammation where that injury occurred, which will then cause muscle tightness, which will lead to altered movement patterns, which will then lead to tightening and restriction of the joint so that joint isn't moving as much as it should, which will then lead back to more pain, more muscle tightness, so on and so forth, in just a big giant circle that just gets worse and worse. So we need to intervene and get the muscles to relax, restore that motion in the joint, and then regain control of that movement pattern. And one of the ways we get the joint to move is either with a chiropractic adjustment or a joint mobilization. So what are the differences? With a chiropractic adjustment, it's a really quick movement where we set up the joint just at the end of its motion and then thrust through it so we regain that motion and control. And with a joint mobilization, it's just slow, repetitive movements through that joint's entire range of motion in order to get that motion back. So the goal of both the chiropractic adjustment and the joint mobilization is to restore motion in the joint so that we can get the pain to decrease, we can get the inflammation out of there, and then move ourselves on to being able to get the muscle to relax. So what are some of the risks and benefits? Well, the benefit is to get the motion back, get you out of pain, and get that healing process moving forward. And some of the risks with a chiropractic adjustment or joint mobilization is we make things more painful because we're stretching things, and that's never fun when an area is really tight. Another thing is with a chiropractic adjustment, if it's in the spine, you've also got to worry about whether or not there's a disc injury or things like that, especially up in the neck, the arteries, if they're calcified or you have some anatomical anomaly that leaves them at risk of causing a stroke. We've got to be aware of that. Or if you've had a previous surgery, those are all things that you're not going to want to adjust really fast and suddenly through because you can end up hurting the person. With the joint mobilization, it does free you up to treat those areas because since it is a lower and slower movement, typically it's a lot safer, especially up in the neck region. If there's an issue with the arterial supply, you tend to be able to work on it still without putting it at too much risk. Or if there's a surgery, like if you've had a joint fusion in the neck or you've had a joint replacement in the shoulder or hip, typically that slow movement is actually a little bit better than an adjustment for, so you don't want to do that. So those are some of the things that I look for when I'm evaluating someone to see if it's appropriate to adjust or mobilize an area. And typically that includes an orthopedic eval, some functional exams, and knowing whether or not somebody had surgery or like uncontrolled blood pressure, history of hyperlipidemia, things that are going to let me know whether or not it's safe to adjust or mobilize you. So when you give people time and spend 30 minutes actually treating someone, it makes it a lot easier to actually do the things that somebody needs to be able to treat whatever that person has going on rather than throwing them on the table and getting them out the door. So if you have any questions about that process, shoot me a comment. I would appreciate a like. But yeah, have a great day.